Grow, go, glow. Overcomers Church. Changing lives, transforming nations.
If you have a Bible, but not necessarily. If you have a Bible, you can turn to Ephesians chapter 4, verses 24 to 27. Ephesians chapter 4, 24 to 27. This, of course, talks about Christian community, but the most important aspect of community is the family, so you can apply it to the family. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Be angry and do not sin, and do not let the sun go down on your anger. Give no opportunity to the devil. So here we are told principles. There are 4 principles here of what we should be doing when we have disagreements. Right? And of course, disagreements is an aspect of life. That is something I have heard couples saying, we have been married for so many years and we haven't had one fight. So I think to myself, either they are an angel or they are not truthful. So the first thing he says in verse 25, therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor. Sometimes to get out of a problem, we can lie, or not tell the truth, deny the reality. And when there are problems, difficulties, challenges, disagreements, errors, when we make a mistake, and very often couples lie to avoid the confrontation. But what happens is that it never solves the problem. It's there, it's inside. And you never really solve the problem. And you come to the stage where you don't trust each other because you know that they are not telling the truth. When I was a student, about 5 of us students, we went on a trip together. And the guy who was driving that's okay. The guy who was driving the car got caught, and he had to pay a fine and all that. And I'll never forget, he said, "Don't tell my guy." That troubled me. Here's a guy planning to be a minister of the gospel, and he says, "Don't tell his wife." And many years later, he came back to Sri Lanka, and then many years later, I met his brother. And I asked, "How's your brother?" He said, "Oh, he's doing okay, but he's divorced." And obviously there was something wrong in that. There was no truthfulness. And some people deny, especially like when the father does something wrong, they all act as if they don't know. And they keep the so-called peace, but there's a cloud hanging around the house. And sometimes people take decisions without telling the other person. I know of situations where the wife wanted a child, the husband didn't. And without telling the husband, the wife stopped taking the pill. Things like that. Then you have situations, sadly, I've seen this among Christians, where the wife takes a loan and the husband doesn't know. Until the guy comes and asks for the money. That's when the husband finds out, my wife has been taking loans. Things like that. It's totally unnecessary. You're not going to solve problems that way. So the first thing is be truthful. Then verse 26 says, be angry, but do not sin. Okay. So getting angry is normal. I mean, if you love somebody, you get angry when that person does something that is wrong. But we don't sin. So I want to talk about 5 or 6 ways I think that you can be angry and not sin. Okay? First one, wait for the right time to talk.
If you get that one together, I think the rest of the 5 is
in the Bible there are 2 words for patience, 2 Greek words. Noun and verb, so it becomes 4. That way, 61 times in the New Testament it occurs for Christians, telling Christians to be patient. So obviously, patience is a very, very important Christian virtue. And we have to learn, we have to develop it. I tell my wife, I'm thankful that God gave me a set of teeth. Because when I'm mad at her, I can go to my room. Why hurt the person you love? By saying what comes to your mind. When you are angry, we say things, why hurt that person? You might as well go home, grit your teeth, and then when you are in a better mood, bring up the issue. Right? So wait for the right time. Don't fight in front of the children, for example. Sometimes in our anger, a parent will blame the child. You also did this. And after that, whenever the parents are fighting, the child thinks I'm responsible. They are very simple. They are very simple in their thinking. So we have to be very careful about wounding each other unnecessarily. So that's the first of the be angry and do not sin. The second one is don't use hurtful language. There's an epidemic of angry outbursts today in Sri Lanka. I mean, some of the deaths on the queues, the fuel queues, are anger just bursting out. Parliament, people are using bad language against others. Homes, church, sometimes, I don't know about your church, but my church, we sometimes have this. On the road, so much. People are angry. And when you are angry, you say things that you really don't mean. And then later you apologize. But apologies don't sometimes, yeah, true. It's very good that you apologize. But if it's not it has gone in and it's going to take a long time before it comes out, going. So it's a real problem. You remember Moses when he shouted and used unnecessary words when God asked him to speak to the rock. That we find out in the Psalm. And he was prohibited from going to the land because of that. Because when you're a leader, your words are very important. You can't afford to damage your thing. And of course, James 3:5 says that our words are like a fire. So, Psalm 141 and verse 3, a prayer that every Christian needs to be praying. Set a guard over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. That's why I always pray, Lord, help me to security guard. Normally, security guard stops people from coming in. This is a security guard that stops people from going out. Set a guard over my mouth. And I think we need to be really careful about that. Sometimes there's anger inside, and we need to deal with these anger issues. I think now people are beginning to realize we didn't have much teaching on these things, years ago, but now people are beginning to realize that they can do so much anger, hurt, There is a book that I have. It's called Hurt People, Hurt People. When you're hurt, you end up hurting others. And and so many good people, we have in IFC, we encounter this problem a lot, where the father is a drunk or a drug addict, and the poor mother is working, somehow trying to make a go out of the family. And working like mad, but she's always stressed. And when she's stressed, she attacks the daughter. Amazing mother, but in the stress attacks the daughter. And the daughter hears negative. One day in the bus stand, there is this guy who looks at this girl as no one has looked at her. And they enter, they have an affair. And one day in church, she's praying, Lord, use me to change the world. Next week she's missing. You find out what? She has run away with this guy. 3 or 4 days after running away with this guy, she realized this fellow is worse than my father. And she regrets it for the rest of her life. But it's that in the home, they have heard negative. And I don't know whether you're familiar with the word Needs a Father. Yeah. That program. Yeah, Kasi Custom, I remember him saying once that children learn more from affirmation than from rebuke. Now, rebuke is important, but there is a greater effect if they are affirmed. That was good, because they will follow the thing that brought them the security of affirmation. So, be careful. And okay, so that's the second. Don't use hurtful language. Thirdly, don't resurrect issues that have already been settled. The Bible is very clear that when God forgives, He forgets. And we can't keep bringing. There's a beautiful use of a certain word. In Greek, it's logizomai. And in English, we get the word log from logizomai, and that word comes in single house. It's an accounts term. When you log something. So, 2 Corinthians 5:19 says that God was reconciling the world to Himself, not counting our trespasses, not taking an account, erased it from the books. He erased from the books our sin. 1 Corinthians 13:5 says, love does not keep an account of wrong or a record. Same word. He doesn't keep a record of our wrong. Therefore, we do not keep a record of the wrong that the other person did. Once you have forgiven, you forget. In Jeremiah 31:34, it says, I will forgive their sin and remember them no more. Some people find their identity out of the fact I have been wrong. That's their identity. This is what has happened to me. And they live with that. They nurture that identity. I have been wrong. You are never going to be happy with that. And you are going to make other people unhappy by doing that. Say for example, the wife has had an affair. And she repented, sad about it, forgive. But one day they are having a fight, brings it up. Because you can sure win the fight. You think I will win the fight. But in a Christian love fight, victory, there are no winners in this fight. I remember President Premadasan, after army had gone and did some big battlegrounds, Elephant Pass or something, he had gone. He came over TV and said, in this war there are no winners. Because Sinhalese, Sri Lankans were fighting Sri Lankans. There are no winners. So in our home, victory is when there is unity. Not when one has won and other has lost. You can win a small battle and lose the war. No. So we have to be very careful about this. And again, this self-pity can be a dangerous friend. Never disappoints. You tell your friends your problems, they will give you unnecessary advice and all. You tell self-pity your problems, and we can get wrong satisfaction from that. So don't resurrect issues that have been said. Fourth, never use physical force. That's part of our culture, and because we have seen it happen sometimes, our hand automatically goes up. And I know it's not only men who hit women, that happens a lot, but the other also happens. Wives are hitting their husbands. And it's what we saw our parents, if not our parents, our neighbors. We saw them doing it. So automatically the hand goes up. And we have to learn no. And if you're aware of it, when the hand goes up, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. And if it does happen, immediately do something about it. Apologize. And I have found several people have told me, I hit my wife. And it was their way of saying, I won't do it again. And by being accountable, they were they were serious. They were taking serious steps towards it. We automatically do what we saw our parents do. If mother spoke to the father disrespectfully, when we get married, the girl will speak to her husband disrespectfully. That happens, it's an automatic response. So we have to be very careful about this kind of thing. So that's number 4. Never use physical force. Number 5. Don't use underhand methods to win a fight. We say below the belt. Hitting below the belt. Right? You're just like your mother. Or why can't you be like my brother? My brother is like this. Why can't you be like my brother? No. These are things that are immature, foolish, and unkind. When you start comparing somebody with another. So people are different, and we don't use this kind of method to win battles. Okay, then number 6 is to be angry and not to sin. Don't accuse the person pointing out the problem. For example, here's this lady who has come to church, with whom you had a small relationship once. Now you are married. And she comes, you talk to her. Wife says this. And when they go home, the wife says, I prefer if you don't talk to them. That's what she said. You think I'm having an affair? No, you accuse the person bringing up a question. Now what will that lady think? My goodness, hereafter I won't bring up anything. Because if that's the way he responds. So they don't bring up anything until something terrible happens. So we need to be very careful. It's very hard when a spouse points out a fault. But it's healthy. I think we have to learn to use our spouses to help us to become better people. Our desire is not to show that we are good people. Our desire is to be like Jesus. And anybody who helps us do that. And we all make mistakes. James 3:2, talking to leaders, says, we all stumble in many ways. We all stumble, we make mistakes. But there's a way to, of course there's a way to bring out problems. You don't tell your husband, you don't love me now. The real issue was, when you come back from work, it will be nice if you talk to me. That was the issue. Right? But the way it's put is, you don't love me. There's a way to bring accusations together. I would like, when I gave the same message in our church, one couple said, one guy came and said, in our home we have this rule, that you don't use the word never and always. You never clear up your room. You always think about yourself and not about me. Don't use those words. Rather, why don't you clear up your room? Or, I'd like you to clear up your room. You understand what we are saying. So there are rules for love fights. Rules for getting angry. If you love, you will get angry. That is inevitable. You will get angry. But there is a way in which we do that. Then, the next one is, do not let the sun go down on your anger. That's verse 26 in the second part. I learned this, my wife and I tried to follow this principle on the day we got married. And I still remember exactly a year after I got married. I preached at a wedding of my close friend, Chandran. I preached at his wedding and I mentioned, don't go to sleep until everything is settled. And I felt that my friends who heard me, who were much more experienced in marriage than me, were sort of in a roundabout way saying, you will learn. My wife and I have been married for 46 years and we haven't still learned. But I must say, sometimes it used to go on in day, especially the first few years. First 5 years of marriage, when you realize how different you are, you will talk and talk and talk. So sometimes it used to go on and on and on. But you may be tired the next morning, but you have a sense of freedom. I have settled it with the one and over the years I have had to counsel many couples who are having difficulties. And I must say, several of them, I haven't been able to solve the problems. I've helped solve their problems. And I realized they are coming to me far too late. They've already decided it's not going to work. Then someone says, go for counselling. But they have decided. It's too late. So when the problems emerge, deal with them at once. Before you get hard and, young couples have differences and they are going to get mad at each other. That's acceptable. That is normal. But we have to be careful not to allow it to go on and on, the anger to go on and on. So that's the number 3. Do not let the sun go down on it. First one was don't lie. Second one, angry and don't face it. Third one, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Fourth one, give no opportunity to the devil. When you are angry, you are giving an opportunity to the devil. Because you say things that you never intended to say. So we have to grapple with anger, and otherwise it's going to control us. Sri Lanka is a place where people, I used to go to the prisons when I was much younger. And you talk to the people in the prison, nice people, sudden burst of anger, stab and kill the person. You know, that is the way. Because when anger is there, the devil can use it. And it ruins churches. You know, I think we have seen how angry people can bring a church to the ground. They want to show that they are right. And they bring the church to the ground. So don't give an opportunity to the devil. Right. Then, you know, he can exploit. You know, we try to punish. So, and the joy leaves the bowl. Okay, just 2 points before I finish. 3 points, but one I have already dealt with. There are no winners in a battle. Right? The second is usually a love fight ends with both parties apologizing. Sometimes 95% of the blame is with one party, but always there will be some blame somewhere. And sometimes the one to apologize first is the 5% person, and not the 95%. So don't get angry. Why should I be always apologizing? Why can't they? They start, you know. But sometimes that is the way. Personalities are different. Some people find it easier to apologize than others. So apology, you know, 1 John 1:7. If you walk in the light, you have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus Christ cleanses you. If you walk in the light, walking in the light is trying to be obedient and being open about our sin, being willing to accept that we have sinned. Again, you know, I've heard people say, my husband has never apologized to me, or my wife has never apologized to me. I don't say it, but I would like to tell you that means that person is a very weak person. Our strength is grace. Our strength is grace. You know, we don't want to lose grace, because when you're graced, you're happy. And joy is the great treasure of our life. We want to have an open relationship with God. That's the biggest treasure of our life. And the failure to apologize prevents that. Grace is blocked. So, grace makes us strong, gives us the strength to apologize. It makes us strong. Grace. And then, of course, if you haven't apologized, you know, there's a story of a pastor who was getting angry at home. Oh, recently married, getting angry all the time. And then, not only she realized, the wife realized, not only is he angry at home, he's angry on the pulpit. He's scolding the people when he's preaching. So they decided to go to a counselor, an older pastor. And the counselor wrote this in his book. He said he met his problems like a real man. He blamed it all on the wife. So they talked, and then finally the book came out. This guy was engaged to be married. Then there was this Korean War in the 1950s. There was a Korean War, and he went to Korea. He had 2 weeks R&R, rest and recuperation. But those days it was too costly to come by plane. So he went to Tokyo. And in Tokyo, he spent a few nights with a prostitute. And he had not forgiven himself. Now he's a Christian. But he came back, married this girl who was waiting for him. But he couldn't forgive himself. And when he didn't forgive himself, he was just blaming his wife all the time. And of course, the story ends with forgiveness of the wife, forgiveness from God, forgiveness for himself, and cleansing. So, apology opens the door to freedom. Then, the third thing is God will help. I think that, I like to remind people all the time that the greatest part of a wedding is the vows. Not the reception, not the worship time, not the sermon, not what you're going to wear, not those are the things that we spend all our time with. But the greatest part of a wedding are the vows that you make. Why? It's a threefold covenant. God and the couple. And when God commits himself to this wedding, he has committed himself. And he's going to help you. So there is no saying, this is not going to work. Because God is bigger than the problem. And he's committed to this. So this idea of God helping us and God being in the love fight, he's there. Another thing I learned when I was having my love fights with my wife, with my mouth, I'm talking to her. With my ears, I'm listening to her. In my heart, I'm talking to God. What am I saying? Please God, please God. But when God is there, in the midst of the terrible difficulty, there is a peace. God is good. He's going to see us. I believe it. I believe in God. The Bible is not lying when it says that God is bigger than every problem. And so we do that. Colossians 3:15. Colossians 3:15 says, let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. The peace of Christ is there. And when the peace of Christ is there, it rules us. One of the translations says, let it be an umpire. It moderates. You can't be saying, please God, please God, please God, and shut up, you idiot. With the same breath, you can't use bad language and prayer at the same time. So God is there to help us. And He provides us with the love to see this. Okay, that's what I want to share.
Grow, go, glow. Overcomers Church. Changing lives, transforming nations.